Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Music Man Podcast. I'm your host, Joe. That's our host, Ken. And today we're going to touch on, well, first off, how are you doing? You had some shows this past week. You're doing really good.
I did, yeah. Thank you very much. I had a show on Friday in Joliet, Illinois. I had an hour-long set. It's fantastic. The gentleman that runs or organizes the showcase, real cool dude, Patrick Spearoff. And then following Sunday, I was asked to open up for a new musician that I just met. Her name is Lisa Medina.
Extremely talented.
Yeah, she just released her very first record, very first album of music called Wishes. And I actually might, here, I can show it to you right here to the fans, the people. Yep.
Very nice.
Wishes. So I opened for her, and it was a lot of fun too. I was accompanied by two awesome other musicians on cello and violin. Ari Fisher was on violin, and Adela Skowronski. I think it's Skowronski. Either Skowronski or Skowronska. She will tell me next time I see her. But anyways, they both accompanied me with their cello and violin on 3 of my songs and completely and totally just schooled me on their level of musicianship and professionalism. And they're just super, super talented, and I am grateful that they jumped in. So.
It was awesome. I watched that one performance on Facebook. That was really, really awesome.
Thanks.
String instruments are just amazing sounding, especially in live environments.
Yeah,
they just add so much texture. It's really awesome.
Yeah, and I have consistently heard from people and other sources that playing a stringed instrument like the violin or the cello or viola or the whatever, it is a very, 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 very difficult task, and it takes, like, I've heard it takes a year just to not make a screeching, rotten noise. So, I commend any musician that has been able to pull that off and figure that out. So.
Yeah, it's very awesome to see some of the progress you're making with your music.
Thank you.
It's fun, really seeing it. And you're starting to reap those benefits, like we talked about earlier. Like, you just seeing people come and ask you for more shows, and that's just a testament to, like, networking and playing out and going through the motions of it.
The wonderful part about it that I'm learning is it is so community based, and meaning getting to know and socializing and supporting and fraternizing, however you want, with the members of the community. It is like a family, so to speak. Like, from all of the open mics that I have been hitting up throughout, my state, there's a circuit there's a group of people that you are quite possibly going to see at every single open mic, because it's just this community of people that just they want to play, and they want camaraderie with other musicians and sharing ideas, and so it's turning out to be just a really, really wonderful experience getting to know a lot of these people. Oh, no, I was just going to say, getting to know all of these people, and getting their support. Even if they're lying dead to your face, they're telling you, "Man, it's a great song. I loved it." So it's nice. I'm appreciating it.
For this episode, community is important. We're going to touch on it as we go through this episode, because it's going to kind of integrate with that. So I'm glad you brought up community, because that's ultimately, I think, what needs to happen within our industry is building a community of some kind that cohesively works together. For this episode, we're going to touch on a topic. I've touched on it previously when I was by myself doing this podcast. This was during COVID. And I think it's important. It was one of the most streamed videos I had on this podcast, one of the most listened to. And I know a lot of people don't know a lot of information about it, but that's why we're here. And it's to help open up people's minds to it a little bit more and to maybe build something better than what we currently have. So this episode, on episode 10, we're talking about the tokenization of art and content creation. And is this where we're heading? This basically involves converting artworks, music, videos, even ticketing, streaming, or any other creative content into a digital asset on a blockchain, and then distributing it and selling it and making money off of it.
Okay.
So are we ready to just jump right into it?
Yeah, come on.
Let's do it. I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of detailed information. You feel free to just jump in and shut me up if you have questions.
Ask my bonehead questions.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to try not to make it so definition-based, but in the first few minutes, we're going to go through kind of defining what each thing represents. And then we're going to kind of bring it together where it's like, oh, okay, this is starting to make sense and understand like why this might be a good thing if it's done the correct way.
Okay.
And that's the other thing too. We're Switzerland in this, meaning we're not trying to convince anybody, but we're also not trying to push anybody away. It's kind of an open exchange of ideas in a way.
Fair enough.
So tokenization, we're talking about is the process of transforming physical and intangible assets into a digital token on a blockchain. This allows assets like, we're just using examples like real estate, commodities, intellectual property, art, to be simpler to transferability and greater transparency between the buyer and the seller. Each token serves as proof of ownership, and facilitating fractional ownership is sorry, I kind of skipped around here because I had it written down.
It's a heavy subject, man.
It is. I'm going to skip forward. So the blockchain technology behind this, that's, to me personally, blockchain is amazing. It's the bread and butter of the future, in my opinion.
Do you have a video on that, on blockchain?
Yeah, well, in terms of blockchain, the best way to picture it is like, if you're looking at like, let's just take like one single strip. A block literally is it's just a chain in data that like represents, each block represents a piece of data, and it's just linked with the previous chain of data.
Okay, cool.
So that's kind of the best way to visually understand what blockchain is.
Okay.
And we'll get into in a minute here what like we'll give a definition of like a true meaning of blockchain.
Okay, cool.
So the blockchain technology behind these tokens ensures they are secure, they are unchangeable, and easily traceable, providing a strong foundation for managing and exchanging assets. Keep this in mind when we bring up Ticketmaster in a little later, okay?
Yes, okay.
So an example of tokenizing a song. Imagine you have a music file, like a song you've created.
Okay.
To tokenize it, you would create a digital token on a blockchain that represents the ownership of that song. Each token could represent a share of the song rights or royalties. So remember in the previous podcast, we kind of talked about how they do it off points. Like songwriters get, 50 points and a record label may get 50. So think of that as ownership when you're talking about the tokens. The tokens could be represented as part ownership, all right? If we broke it down further enough. Where am I at now? If you create a music file, to tokenize it, you would create a digital token on blockchain that represents ownership of that song. Each token, you can then sell these tokens to others, giving them a piece of ownership or rights to the song. This isn't really like vitally important, but it gets to the bottom of this.
Okay.
You can then, sorry, I keep skipping around. For example, if 100 tokens are created for the song and you sell 10 tokens to, let's just say like a publishing company, they now own 10% of that song's rights and could potentially earn a portion of the royalties when the song is played or sold. So this process allows for easy transfer of ownership, fractional ownership, meaning many people can own a part of the song, and transparency since all transactions are recorded on the blockchain. So I'm going to give the blockchain definition, then we're going to touch a little bit on why blockchain is really, really awesome.
Okay.
So blockchain is the digital system that records transactions across many computers in a way that ensures the information is secure, transparent, you and I and everybody else can see it all on a digital ledger, and cannot be changed at all. It's like a shared ledger, like a bank ledger, that everyone can trust without needing a central authority to verify it. So let's just use, or not use, like crypto people rely on blockchain to be able to securely transfer money back and forth, okay? This means there's no central government like the US government or anything. It's basically you and I use the blockchain that is created for whatever the asset is. So let's just use it as simple as possible.
Okay.
Let's say there's a Spotify type platform that allows us to distribute music on, okay? Now, they say we're going to give out you're going to have 100 token ownership, but we get to own 10% of your tokens because we're allowing you to share and transfer that information, okay? Everything else we sell, that's transferable between you and I. So let's just say then I sell my song for 90 tokens or whatever per song. You give me that 90 tokens, I keep all of that. So if it was 100, that 10 tokens would go towards that one platform or whatever, okay?
Okay.
The difference, though, is nobody can pirate this stuff. Nobody can manipulate the blockchain into making it anything different. This information is out there, and if it does get changed, immediately gets corrupted and everything shuts down, which it couldn't happen anyway because out of all the computers that are connected to the blockchain, those users are the ones that are holding all the data. So they would have to manipulate hundreds, if not thousands, of computers that are hacked onto that blockchain. If this is making some sort of sense, like my computer's connected to the blockchain that we're using, your computer, any user that's on there can't be hacked. There's no way anybody could actually hack 51% of the computers to manipulate the blockchain, if that makes sense.
Okay. So is this anywhere? It sounds similar to like stock shares.
No,
not
really. No.
Okay.
It may be. I'm not like. I'm in terms of stocks. It's yes, you're like a part ownership, but once. This is where we're going to get into like smart contracts, and smart contracts are part of this. And that's where you're completely eliminating what's called the middlemen, like the record labels, the publishers, if you didn't want to. Like, you wouldn't have to, in the smart contract, you negotiate this stuff. Ultimately, this data, though, can't be changed and can't be manipulated, and it's completely in control of, like, whoever creates that smart contract, basically.
Okay.
So, like, you and I have a smart contract agreement. Let's just say you're a record label, I'm an artist. Okay, that smart contract goes between the two of us, but we don't have to get any third parties involved in it. It could just be between you and I. Same thing for distributing music to a platform that says, we just want to distribute your music. It's basically eliminating anybody who shouldn't be in on grabbing their hands and stealing money out of that pot, if that makes sense. And you're in complete control of it. So
go
ahead.
I was just going to say, so is this kind of like an ironclad, impenetrable way of solidifying contracts.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That
Like,
and files. You can't
Yeah.
just send a file without having it recorded on a blockchain. You can still resell that song. So let's just say somebody purchases your song, right?
Okay.
That smart contract you can either prevent them from reselling it and say you can't transfer ownership of that song, you own it. So or you could say you can resell that song, but I still give 50% or whatever it is, 50 tokens after you sell that song again because it's still my ownership. So
Yeah.
that smart contract prevents anything if you don't want people reselling it or if you do want people reselling it. It's all encoded and encrypted in that data that cannot be hacked by them because it's all
Okay.
on that blockchain technology. It sounds complex and confusing, but if you take a bigger seat back of this thing, it's putting it all back in the artist's hands, basically. Like being like, I don't want my music to be resold again and again and again without getting my rights to it back, like without getting money for that transfer of media or whatever it is, of art. Or you could say,
Got it. So
go ahead.
So this is a means by with which, so like we go back to the Napster days.
Yeah.
When everyone shared file, thousands and thousands and thousands, just shared. Unstoppable. You can't stop this file from being duplicated, copied, and shared. This sort of technology will prevent theft or copying or reselling or duplication or manipulation of your digital, whatever that media is, the digital thing is subsequently made finite by this type of technology.
Correct. And that's ultimately where it can't be corrupted, it can't be changed, it can't be manipulated. Once you create and push out that smart contract, that's what it is. That's how it is. And they already use this in like medical records. There is real estate companies that use this for like transferable assets and stuff like that through things like this. Yeah, there's companies already doing this. There's actually streaming platforms that are already doing this with music stuff, which we'll get into again. I'm trying to make this as summed up as possible. Let me explain smart contracts, Web3 real quick, and then the difference between NFTs and tokenization. And then we're going to kind of go into touching base on why this is important against Ticketmaster, against Spotify. Also, again, bringing the community together and how we would have to make it work to actually work correctly.
Okay.
And I'm trying not to manipulate the whole conversation with me talking. I just think it's really important to touch on those things so people really grasp.
Oh, no. I don't know anything about this stuff. So you are definitely going to have us, like, you're going to have to take the lead here.
Okay.
I am in the dark.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to do it as quick as possible. So smart contracts are self-executing programs on blockchain that automatically enforces the terms of the agreement when certain predefined conditions are met, like we've explained. Think of it as a digital if-then statement that doesn't require a middleman, like a lawyer or a bank, to execute those said parameters. Once the conditions are fulfilled, the contract completes the agreed-upon actions, such as transferring a cryptocurrency or transferring a song or releasing some sort of digital asset or granting access to a service, like if you have a website that you want to grant service to. So once that smart contract is executed, that's it. Like that, it's in play. So smart contracts are secure, transparent, immutable, meaning they can't be removed or anything, or changed. Meaning once they've deployed, they can't be altered, ensuring trust and reliability between parties. So we're in like Web 2. Web 2 was like apps and like online store purchasing and stuff. That's what they considered Web 2. Okay. Web 3 is the next version of the internet, focuses on decentralization, meaning the federal government has the Federal Reserve, right? It's the central bank. Well, instead of it being centralized like information, this is where users like you and I are exchanging information. We are each pinpoint of decentralization. So hackers have to hack each one of our computers to be able to manipulate anything in terms of that system, which is virtually impossible at this point in reality right now. But Web3 is technically the decentralization. It gives users more control over their data, like you and I over our music, and online activities by using the blockchain technology, where ownership and decisions are shared among the community rather than controlled by central entities.
Yeah.
So that's, again, a big factor of this whole thing is it's not focused on one single central power. We have the power as artists to community create a system that is fair and equal in what we decide to do with it.
Right. Okay. I think I'm following you.
Okay. So again, I'm not trying to persuade anybody that this is the greatest. Blockchain is amazing technology. It's definitely the future of where we're heading.
It sounds like this is a very important step towards. It's a very important step towards. I don't want to say nationalizing, but creating a unified form of security encryption.
Yes.
For data, for being able to protect, sell, or transfer data in a universally used, safe, secure manner.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense with so much digital stuff. Especially with, let's say, tickets for a concert.
Bingo.
Because I remember, I think I was listening to the congressional hearing on Ticketmaster and Live Nation's monopoly, and all the other members of the music community were there, other types of promoters. I think StubHub or SeatGeek or might have been SeatGeek was there as well. And there was this discussion about, in order to reduce and or limit or completely eliminate like the problems with tickets is to make them transferable. And that seems like the dumbest, easiest idea to do, but you really can't with a lot of these tickets. I shouldn't say with a lot of these tickets, but there are some situations where, like if I was trying to sell my ticket to someone else, I unfortunately would have to use Ticketmaster, where I bought the ticket from. I would have to sell it through them, and subsequently they get a share or cut from the ticket they already charged you exorbitant fees on. Well, it's my ticket, and you're telling me I can't sell it to someone else. If I'm going to sell it, I have to sell it through you, and you're just going to take a cut of that sale. So this whole concept of creating a universally secure way for, say, me to sell my tickets that I purchased from Ticketmaster, which are now mine, and I should be able to sell them to someone else in the event that I cannot go. So I've noticed that these electronic tickets that we all use when we go to concerts, show your phone, look at the barcode, it refreshes, put it in your Google Wallet, like all of this transfer of this digital ticket is getting messy.
It's funny you say that. They definitely double dip. I did a previous episode, not this podcast, but on my own personal podcast, about how Ticketmaster actually in 2018, I think it was before COVID, they were in Vegas and they did this conference and they talked about it, and it was like a reseller program that they would rebuy tickets back. It was insane. I'll have to find the article and send it to you. It's another thing we could talk about on this podcast, but it will make many, many artists pissed off. Like,
I'm sure.
it was ridiculous.
But
going back, though, to what you said about...
Yeah.
So this is where it's such a big factor where you're eliminating Ticketmaster. Imagine venues not having to use Ticketmaster because they can use NFTs, which we could talk about that for a minute, but they can use like an NFT based blockchain that says, I'm going to sell directly to consumers because I can now, eliminating Ticketmaster. A smart contract can be integrated where it says, hey, if you want to resell the ticket, you can. We agree to that in the smart contract where if you resell it, whatever money comes, it goes back to you instead. That's the beauty of decentralization, where it's not a ticket master owning the whole thing. It's the users themselves owning all of it and agreeing that this is how it goes. That's where community comes in.
Okay.
So when I say NFTs too, I just have to touch on this. So there's a difference between NFTs and tokenization. So tokenization is the broader concept of creating a digital token for assets, while NFTs are specific types of tokens used to represent unique digital items. So Ticketmaster, they're going to claim that they used NFTs as their thing, but they're still manipulating those surcharges and stuff like that with stuff. So while it's an NFT, it can't be stolen or whatever, which is good. Like nobody can go in and recreate a ticket like they used to with the paper tickets or whatever.
Sure.
They're still running the blockchain that they're operating on or whatever. So that's why it sucks still, because they're the ones that own that blockchain in a way. So they can manipulate that however they want. But NFTs are the way that you actually... So tokenization refers to the process of converting physical or intangible assets into the digital tokens on the blockchain. NFTs, there's two types of tokens that is unique and cannot be replaced with something else. The NFTs represent ownership, so you get... The NFT is the actual digital artwork or digital song or whatever it is. That's the actual piece of information that you want in it, if that makes sense. So that's how it's different than tokenizing versus NFTs. The NFT is like, I can't say physical because it's not physical, but the digital representation.
But you talk about a digital file on your computer or on your phone.
Yeah.
It is an organized set of ones and zeros that specifically denote, say it's a picture or an image. It's a digital image, has digital code. So the code is so you're saying the code is specific only to this one file that is being sent to you, and there is no other copy of that digital file.
Correct.
This is a unique set of 10001010101.
Correct. So you might sell one song millions of times, but those millions of times are all different codes. So each person has an individual's. It's still a copy of that song, but it's not a copy of that first, if that makes sense. Each code is different on each one of those.
Yeah, it is just a copy, and it has a different inherent, like, I don't say chemical signature, but it has its own numerical signature.
Its own DNA.
Each time it's copied, so on and so forth.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. I got it.
So, sorry that was really long to the people that were listening to it, but we're at 30 minutes right now, and we're gonna start to now just dive into real quickly like how this can change as a community of artists and musicians. To me personally, there's already streaming platforms that are doing blockchain NFT based music streaming and music distribution. There's Audius, there's Royal, Opus. Those are three big ones that are already doing this whole type of thing. It's new. Like any new technology, it's going to be tricky to get people adapted to it. It's going to be tricky to understand how it works. But as a community, it would be really amazing if artists would just gather together and create something almost for the future generations to be like, this is how it should work. Equal, fair amounts of money that goes directly to the artist, but also to the people that are helping, that yes, they deserve to get a cut of some portion of that. What the portion is disproportionate, considering Ticketmaster's, surcharging these astronomical fees that you and I both know.
Yeah.
Imagine, just in a smart contract situation, like the venue being able to directly pay or get the tickets and the artist automatically getting money for that. Like, there's no middleman between that.
Yeah.
So
the transaction allows for maximum, I guess, profit to get sent to those who actually deserve it.
Right.
Instead of so go ahead. Yeah.
Well, and tickets wouldn't be $150 for some, it would actually be feasible, because in a smart contract, we can negotiate that in a certain, and I know people are like, well, yeah, well, Ticketmaster can still do, it's like, you're missing, though, the point that,
well, yeah, if a venue doesn't have to go through a ticket supplier because they have, if the venue has a more immediate means by with which to generate tickets for their events, and they can securely transfer will do all of the transactions themselves. That sounds like that's what needs to be done in order to remove the monopoly control in areas of our economics.
And it's so frustrating, because you'll hear people say, well, artists aren't doing anything hard or whatever. It's not about artists making millions of dollars. It's about artists making money off of their art, whatever they define their art cost being. It's not that point, though. And that's where community, to me personally, like we were talking about, even with streaming services, like you post all the time, and it's amazing, because you're exactly right for posting it. When you see these the amount of money that the Spotify CEO has made, whether it's in stock shares or whatever, like, I don't even think Spotify made a profit for like first 10 years or whatever. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's where we're ultimately looking at it, like, this needs to change. Now, whether it's blockchain based or whatever, there needs to be a better, fair share of the wealth to go back to the creatives who are actually they're the ones that are the reason the platform is created.
Right. It sounds like these tools are steps in the right direction to putting the control back in the individual's hands.
Correct.
Nail on the head. Pink.
You and I both remember, because we were in our teens when Pearl Jam, like you talked about, Pearl Jam went in front of the congressional hearings. I still get so mad when I watch not reruns, but like news stories about that, because they were the ones that like seriously, nobody else backed them up. No other major artist went after Ticketmaster. Garth Brooks could have done it. They're Kiss, anybody. They could have gotten together in a congressional hearing, and instead they got laughed at. And look at where we're at now. And I'm ready to look at major artists right now. And I'm not saying they don't do great things, like Taylor Swift and stuff do great things for small artists, but it's like, you have so much money. Build a platform that just seeds it.
Yeah.
So the rest of the art community can start to build this, and instead of a major art labels being involved, create it for the next generation to be able to do that. I think that, to me personally, in my opinion, ultimately has to be what happens is the seed money for it to develop has to be from major artists that are ready to be like, we need to change the industry as a whole.
Yeah, and the other side of that too. The additional point or part to that statement is that, why aren't the major acts or the major artists doing something about this? Well, because there's going to be a painful period where everyone that stands up against this is going to lose money. They're going to lose opportunities. They're going to lose growth in their own in their own journey of what they are trying to do with their music and their art. It's the sacrifice, and I think there's just been close to 20 years of a blind eye turned to what's going on because the system's working, and those who are, the 1% are making their money, and they made it. Well, leave it to the little guys to figure it all out.
Right. And I can sit on my soapbox. I agree with you. I could sit on my soapbox though and sit here and preach that, and it's like, I can't speak for you, but for me, if I ever got to a point where I was even making like $1 million or $2 million, it would be at the point where it's like, when's enough? Like,
yeah, the stupid part about it is like, $1 million is a gross amount of money.
Yeah.
But if you, I'm pretty sure that if everyone had $1 million, you'd be fine. Like this whole inequity disparagement just wouldn't be a thing as much, because in today's modern society, if you have $1 million, if you as an artist or a musician earn yourself $1 million, the amount of money that $1 million makes you to sustain your daily life is more than enough. And you consider, well, that's not enough money. Well, we need to make more money. There's more money. There would have to be, I believe, with any protest towards a societal injustice, it will never change until there is loss, sacrifice and loss.
Yeah.
So hopefully this kind of technology that you're talking about is the first step towards prying the fingers from the grip that places like Ticketmaster has on the industry. Like, peel that finger back one digit at a time until they can't do anything about it, and they'll have to scramble and figure out their next scheme to gain control.
Yeah. It's really hard because some people don't understand that, like, just because it's built this way doesn't mean it has to stay this way.
100%. Like 100%.
And just an example, how many major artists are now canceling tours? The Black Keys just had to cancel a tour because they weren't selling enough tickets for, some of the stadiums or arenas they were playing.
Yeah.
It's a reality check. You're outpricing your fan base. Yeah, and that's where, to me, it's like, maybe you guys need to learn to work as a community instead of it just being, doing the same thing over and over again. Touring different, making music differently. I don't know.
I think there's also the added complication of what has happened economically in the world post 2020. The exorbitant costs of things that don't need to cost what they cost they're the norm now. Like it has become akin to what kickbacks are just the norm, and that's how it's always been. Or under the table deals is just part of the norm. Well, why are we paying this jerkball $500 and he's not even here? Well, that's just how that's just what happens. It's how it is. Oh, okay. Well, the economic situation of touring now, because of all of these entities and situations or pieces of the machine that is a touring industry, they're all grabbing for way too much, and it's just getting way out of hand. And to the Pearl Jam point, I read an article recently that they've addressed how in the world their tickets are as pricey as they are, and they themselves have said, well, the cost to put on shows and tours like this is so ridiculously expensive now because of what the industry is doing that things have to, if you want to tour, you have to pay this kind of money. And to his credit, he says, and on top of that, if we weren't able to make any money for ourselves, as this is their job, they wouldn't be out on tour. So these costs seem ridiculous, but the industry itself it's crushing everyone.
It is.
So I hope that something like this, these tokenization and blockchain and smart contracts, become a thing, man. Because I bet you small venues will eat that sort of technology up so hard, so fast, because it gives them control.
And that exactly, and that's where,
excuse me,
full circle here. If it's done correctly, which God knows in America so much stuff doesn't get done correctly, but that's where, as a music artist community, it's like we have something in our hand that has potential to change something for the better.
Yeah.
Even if we don't reap the benefits, it's the future generations that could reap those benefits. Yeah. Why aren't we doing that yet? And that ultimately goes back to, like you just said, like,
the old guard doesn't want it to change.
Corruption, yeah. Old guard doesn't want it to change, and it's so frustrating. As 43-year-olds, we're sitting here like, not on our deathbeds, but like in an industry that's considered old, and you're like, shit. Oh man, if I'm old already.
that old. Well, the I think it's an arcane standard. You don't need to be a certain age to start a music career or an art career. There are numerous, or I should say, there are countless examples out there of people who have become immensely successful and fulfilled in their endeavors after 40.
Yeah.
To become a super sensational pop star or touring musician that becomes a giant humongoid, celebrity. In a lot of situations, you need to start young in order to physically do it, because of how demanding. I've heard that being a pop star or a touring artist or this or that, like it's a physical demand that you have to. It's a physical demand that cannot be denied. But for us, with technology to help us to keep control of our proprietary information is totally necessary, and pushing these ideas out there into the world is totally important, in my opinion, because, like you said, this current system exists the way it is because it's not being challenged enough or hard enough or more frequently by the new ideas that could potentially work, that could potentially be an alternative that helps out in giving, as you said, control back to the little person.
Or at least a stepping stone. Nobody's saying that it has to be exactly this, but it's a stepping stone into that direction of being better for the community and better for independent artists and writers and all that stuff. And we haven't even touched on, with this blockchain technology, you and I as songwriters who co-write together, smart contracts, creating those where it's just easier to understand. You get it. Once it's on the blockchain, it's immediately triggered, and there's no accountants or anything. It's all built into that little code that tells you this sold, this gets this gets this, and it's instant. And there's no middleman that's sitting here nickel and diming stuff. And not that shouldn't pay taxes on or anything. It's more about, though, you have control over it.
Yeah, that the gatekeepers are eliminated in a way because of technology like this. That's what I'm hearing.
And that's the part, though, also with like political lobbying and everything. All my family that I've like talked to about this, they all think it's like, well, that seems like hackers. And when you get propaganda, which is what happens when the old garb doesn't want it to change.
Yeah.
You start to see like, this isn't bad technology. It's useful.
Sure.
But they try to tell you, well, crypto is this. And it's like, it's not about crypto. It's the technology behind it that is ultimately what is really good about it. Leave crypto out of it. I'm not saying whether you should do that or not.
Yeah.
It's the technology behind it is there. We just have to fine tune it to benefit the community and make it better.
Sure.
Again, I didn't mean to get on a soapbox.
It's always fun.
I know, but it's also, can we change it for the better?
Well, sure. I mean, it's kind of a, it's like a, it's a part of evolution. We have to allow everything to evolve if it wants to, and you know, our monetary and commodity system is very, in many ways, stuck in its ruts. You know, it is what it is. It does what it does. It's how it's always been, and that's how it's going to continue. But you know, with change is inevitable.
Yeah.
There's no stopping it, my friend.
Other than that, I have nothing left. Do you have any questions or any like thing that does it make more sense? Did I make it more complicating?
No, it totally makes more sense. It's technology that creates secure transactions, agreements that cannot be controlled by an outside party separate from the deal makers, so to speak. Give me some. Hey, you scribble on a piece of paper right now and take a picture of it, and I will buy that from you, and we'll try it out. We'll try this technology
Let's do
today.
It could work.
So,
okay. Well, that's all I've gotten. I talked a lot, so I'm sorry to the listeners out there.
No, that's good. We need to hear Joey.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's all I've got today.
All right. Well, that was a great conversation.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.
And if you have any insights or information on this subject matter and you want to leave a comment and let us know or correct us or, I don't know, cancel us because we said it wrong.
God, cancel.
Do it. All
right. Well, have a good one, everybody.
Yeah, I think this podcast, or this episode has been canceled now.
Yes, it has. Right. Goodbye.
Thanks.